Chapter 8. 3 Ways of Virgin Birth. An exclamation of surprise mixed with pleasure went up from the throats of the people in the large company at the way my beautiful mother began her talk. She was known and popular with all in our village, and they had spread her fame among the others of the company. Rabbi Borenchin sat next to me in the firelight, and I saw his pleased smile as he glanced at me. My father's eyes came slowly around to lock with mine, and I noticed that John had fixed his eyes upon mine with that strange adoration he and mother seemed to share. Do we not all expect the Messiah? Yes. In Malachi it was written long ago, Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me, and the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger to the covenant. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering and righteousness. You remember also from the prophet Isaiah, And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And there shall come a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, nor reprove from what he hath heard. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp. I say again, these prophecies and others have been fulfilled. Even now one walks among you who has come of the lineage of Jesse, out of the loins of David, by the way of a virgin undefiled and pure. Let me tell you her story, for although you all know of Jesse and David, I alone know the perfect virgin. She is and was a girl of our village, a daughter of priests. This is her amazing story. This maiden was raised as a holy gift from God. Her parents saw to it that her feet touched no unconsecrated ground until she was 7, and she was made a bride of the church. All her youth was attended with great care and good tutoring, and she grew into womanhood a little lonely and much given to mystic thoughts. Long after she reached the age, she was not chosen by any man. Not until long after she was 15 did one come to claim her and pay the dowry for one so mystical and so well kept. At 17, she was chosen by a great and learned man of sweet disposition and humble mien, and he was 24 when they were betrothed. After the betrothal, he went forth to another city for a building job, and after 4 months of his absence, she was greatly lonely and went often into the sanctuary of her father's house to pray. There, one day her sight was blazed by an angel. Standing straight and tall and in a mighty brilliance, the angel said, Hail, Virgin, highly favored, God is with you. Blessed are you among all women. But the maiden was sorely troubled and terrified, lest the vision should be false. But the angel said, Fear not, Virgin, you have found favor with God. Hear the will of heaven. Ye shall conceive and bear a son. He shall be mighty, and shall be called the Son of the Almighty. And the supreme God shall place him upon the throne of his ancestor David. He shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and there shall be no end of his kingdom. But even as the angel was speaking, and the sanctuary was filled with his brilliance and echoed to the glory of his tones, the virgin's mind began to waver and slip away from divine consciousness. How soon she dropped from a high meditation into a human attitude of mind. Doubt, shame, fear, yea, even terror began to hammer at her consciousness. Her mind wrestled with such questions as, was this indeed the angel of God? If he was a messenger of the Most High, by what sign could he prove himself? If she, a virgin untouched by man, were to conceive and bear high heaven's child, would man believe and worship, or would man shame her and accuse her before the world? Would her beloved put her away with a bill of divorcement? If so, would he do it before 2 witnesses who would keep her in faith, or would he do it in public before the gate, or within the synagogue? If he believed her not, would her neighbors, Would then irate neighbors, believing themselves right and justified under the law, stand her to public trial and condemn her, then stone her to death according to custom? Indeed, she had cause to fear on the human level and no assurance of her future. Verily, the anguish of her soul was great, but she was also secretly pleased at being chosen, and she partly believed. Had not her father and Anna, her beloved mother, many times assured her that before her birth she was envisioned as the chosen of God? Had she not, in sacred ceremonies, been dedicated to him in body, mind, and soul, even as a woman is wedded to an earthly husband? Had she not been wedded to the Most High? Her feet had touched no unhallowed soil until she was 7 years of age, and her life ordained. Were other maidens so carefully tended and so fully purified for divine purpose? Even as she reasoned thus, she began to see that she was chosen as the instrument of the Lord before her own conception. Her ordained and divine use was a juggernaut that rolled over her human doubts and frailties. Humbly and in gratitude, she fell upon her knees and bowed to her service to the divine. Yet will the human mind not always be curious? Will it not keep asking how, why, when, even of the divine? She asked of the angel, "How can I conceive, since I have known no man?" The angel smiled and said, "Behold, it is no mystery. You shall be raised into your spiritual, radiant body, together with all the faculties and powers of womanhood. The thought power of the highest shall overshadow you in the divine use of thought. Force shall form the seed and place it in your womb. You shall know no man but only the touch of the thought, shadowy as a Holy Ghost. But when your radiant self has been brought into your physical self, you shall conceive in the flesh of this divine thought. Therefore shall you give birth to a holy being, which shall be the Son of God. This Son of God you shall call by this name." The angel whispered into her ear the name, and it meant Redeemer. The angel said, "Know that with God nothing is impossible. Recall that your aunt was barren all her life, but in her old age has conceived and is to bear a son." It was done even as the angel said. And, as truth of her vision, she arose and hurried to the house of her uncle in Judah, as directed by the angel, but she spoke the name of her aunt, and her aunt was filled with holy thought. Her aunt gathered the trembling virgin in her arms and cried in a loud voice, "You are blessed above all women, even as the fruit of your womb is blessed above all men. And blessed among women am I, that the maiden who is to be mother of my awaited Lord should come to me. And blessed is the babe in my womb, for even as your voice spoke my name, it leapt with joy. Dry your tears and do not fear, Virgin of God, for because you believed, the awaited one shall come forth." The virgin saw that her uncle also knew, and she wept and cried, "My body and my soul is devoted to the Most High, and my heart magnifies the Lord. Without regard to my unworthy and low estate, he has chosen me for his handmaiden, and henceforth all generations of men will call me blessed above all women, he that is. Almighty has done to me great things, and has shown his mercy together with his strength. He has put the proud from their high estate and exalted those of low degree. In order that no man might condemn her, her aunt and uncle did witness her purity and attest it. Then they kept her from that moment in sanctuary and seclusion, and allowed no man to approach near unto her, that her character should be above reproach, and her name be good upon the lips of all mankind. They sent a message to her espoused love to where he worked building a temple. Near the end of 4 months he came to her at her uncle's house, for only then was his work finished. How frightened was the virgin as he stopped in her presence, and she looked upon him with eyes of love and wonder. Could she really know what he would do or say upon finding that she was almost 4 months pregnant? What would he believe? But she and her aunt and uncle told him all, saying that he should know, and that, if he believed them not, he should examine her body before he put her away with divorce. But he stood very still, his eyes upon her in an inscrutable way, and was moved to neither blame nor reproach. He heard the aunt of the virgin declare upon her honored word that the maiden was yet a virgin, and no man had come near her in the time. But neither was he moved to acceptance, praise, or jubilation. He looked at her with eyes that seemed to be filled with adoration and love, yet he spoke not a word, but turned away with tears in his eyes and left the house. The virgin knew not what he felt, nor what he believed, and wept in her anguish and cried aloud to the Almighty. Thus she resolved to die, and refused food and water. And at the end of 2 days she stood in the sanctuary and cried with bitterness. Then she heard a sound and felt the arms of her beloved around her. his sweet kiss warm upon her face, and his tears mixed with hers. Beloved, never did I doubt you, for I knew before you knew, and there were things between me and my most high God that I had to pray upon and give thanks for, and the first could not speak for the joy of your blessedness and the wonders of his creation. When the lovers were reconciled, and the aunt and uncle of the Virgin were come into the sanctuary, he said forthrightly to all, Verily, I do not believe she has conceived as has been told. Nor what he believed, and wept in her. When the aunt would have protested and defended the Virgin, he stopped her with a silencing look. Woman, hear me. I know this maid is yet a virgin, for I have proof more wondrous than tongue can tell. But I know whereof I speak. There are 3 ways of virgin birth. Hear me yet further with complete understanding. If she were a harlot rather than a virgin, still would I marry her, so great is my love for her. Yet, if I loved her not at all, and she were defiled and common rather than pure and virtuous, still would I marry her, for such is my duty to my promised word. Know this. I love her, and I know she is a virgin of God. Yet I do not agree upon the way this holy maiden conceived. With this opinion clearly stated, openly, so there shall be no secret belief in me to be cause of misunderstanding, I place my love and my name at her feet and ask this maiden to decide. If she still wills it, let the marriage be this day, this very hour, here in this sanctuary made divine by her prayers, her tears, and her presence. How great was the maiden's joy, and the sweet hour of nuptials was appointed, and she became his bride. That evening, 4 persons and 3 miracles sat at the bridal supper: a barren woman who became fruitful at the promise of God, a virgin who conceived at the command of God, and a bridegroom who rose above all human doubts, and with them the 2 unborn sons who were to influence the future of all mankind. Though she came to his home and his bed, the bridegroom knew not the maiden until a son was born from a virgin, thus fulfilling the promise and the prophecies. Thus it was that when her time was near, a journey must be undertaken from their home in our village to Bethlehem, for the Roman Caesar had called for a registration of all Jews in the city of their birth, and Herod, the awful, required the act be done without delay. Thus she was big with child when they came into the little town of Bethlehem. But they were late, for she could not travel fast, and there were no rooms in the inn or the home of good folk of the town. Thus it was that the bridegroom went to the Essenes and was granted permission to use the grotto of their secret ceremonies. And thus it was that she brought forth her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddles of cotton and linen, and placed him in a manger within the grotto. All unknowing of the events outside, she cared for the Son of God. Yet other miracles were happening. Certain shepherds watched the flocks meant for sacrifice at the temple. Suddenly, an angel stood before them in the fields, where they lay wrapped in blankets against the chill of the night, for it was near first light of May 23rd. A splendor shone all around, and the angel said, Fear not, for I bring you tidings of great joy to all peoples of the world, for all time. This very hour there is born, in the city of David, the awaited, the Savior. And that ye may believe and know that this be your sign, ye will find him wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Even as the herald angels spoke, a multitude of heavenly voices spoke forth praises to God the Almighty, saying, Behold the Messiah, who will bring glory to God the Eternal, and on earth will bring peace, goodwill toward men. And the shepherds left their flocks and hurried into the town, and found the Virgin Mother, the bridegroom, and the child asleep in the manger. The shepherds told their story abroad in the crowded town, and the Virgin Mother was puzzled and pondered in her heart why the birth of the Son of God was so lowly, and was thus announced. When the 8 days were past, the child was taken for circumcision, and he was given the name announced by the angel before he was conceived in the Virgin's womb. And when the days of her purification according to the Mosaic law were come, that happened which I told you at this well. Simeon and Anna came upon the mother, proclaiming in loud voices that they had foreseen and now beheld the Messiah. I promised to tell you who was the woman at Nazar. Verily, she was that same virgin who conceived of the Most High, and bore a Son of God, and called him by the name the angel spoke. That woman who was that virgin is now within the ring of these campfires. That one who bears the angel-given name now sits in the firelight at this camp. Verily, I am that woman, the virgin who bore the Son of God. And he was named Jeshua, and is called Joseph bar Joseph, and he is that divine Messiah for whom you wait. And at his side in the firelight is John, angel-announced son of my very aunt Elizabeth, wife of Zacharias. Proudly I swear to you that I am the mother of him that was to appear, and is now come in the flesh, and walks among you. Behold the Son of God. In all that vast company not a breath stirred the desert air, not a person moved, lest the enchantment of the tale be broken. Rabbi Borenchian wept and nodded and wept some more. My mother stood in the glow of the firelight, seemingly borne up and set free, radiant beyond the fullest dreams of man, yet her eyes sought mine with a strange pleading and a strange terror. John sighed as he sat beside me, and his eyes were aglow with a light of utter adoration. But my surprise was complete, and my heart was too full with wonder to let me move. My beautiful mother was lifted down and stood hesitantly near the well, her eyes fixed upon mine. I saw in her face that strange terror which I had seen, and my heart leaped out to her in spite of my confusion and my embarrassment. I smiled at her, trying to show across the distance my love for her, and I rose to my feet to go to her. But she sped eagerly across the firelight and into my arms and clung to me, trembling and sobbing. "Oh, my son, my divine son! I should have told you. I have tried many times. Oh, how unwise and unworthy I have been!" I could not speak. At that moment tears were in my throat indeed, but with her words my mind was frozen by the staggering implication. I was poised above the deep abyss of doubt, for my beautiful mother was the most imaginative and mystical woman, and a fabulous teller of tales. I knew she might invent or improvise for the sake of her story, but in her eyes I saw that she truly believed every word of the story she had told. In her trembling terror and her words, I sensed her dread that I might be displeased with her story or doubt her word. I patted her. "Beautiful mother, you're the finest and most worthy mother, too wonderful even for a Messiah." The children stood and looked up at us with owl-wise eyes, both proud and shy. Mother, on seeing them, laughed through her tears at the expressions on their faces and swept them into her arms all at once. Soon, in the business of being a good mother, she regained her composure, and soon was laughing with us all. But from that moment on, I sometimes surprised in the eyes of my brothers and sisters that same look which had previously been only on John's and Mother's face. In a few minutes, the pilgrims of the expanded company began to come to thank her for the story and for magnificent entertainment, but each visitor looked at me with either curious, baleful, or worshipful mien. Much later, when most of the camp had strolled past our fire or stopped to chat, we were able to settle down and try to sleep. But the buzz of voices persisted as many sat at their own campfires and discussed the story. Even as we lay in our desert beds, many of the pilgrims came and stood beyond the glow of the embers of our fire, and I could see curious eyes peeking into our camp from all directions. With little sleep, we were eager to leave the camp by the first light. But many came, bearing burning torches against the blackness, and talked with Mother and asked her questions. We ate quickly and started upon the trail, but still many came to talk with Mother and to ask me questions as we moved on in the early morning light. We swung westward past Mount Gilboa, northwest of Jezreel, and when we stopped for our midday meal, Mount Tabor loomed up against the wilderness to the north. But I did not want to talk to the many curious pilgrims. I wanted to talk to my beloved Father. I needed his help and his stabilizing opinions, and, most of all, I needed his wisdom. For I was beginning to realize that Mother had been telling what she thought was true. We were almost back to Nazar before I realized that my father was deliberately making it impossible for me to talk to him alone. He was intentionally leaving me with my inner questions. Those restless questions seared in my mind and flamed to a white heat. I was so plagued and distressed by the inner thoughts, doubts, and suspicions that I found myself only half listening when talking even with the elders of the company. First paid little attention and not too much respect. Mary Beth was tired from the long walk, and John and I decided to rest her by carrying her on our shoulders. John took her first and carried her for a while. When I reached to take her, she drew back. I was surprised but not ready for the deep hurt of her direct words. "Should a mortal like me weigh down the Son of God?" I felt the words like a blow in the stomach, and for a moment was stunned to silence and stillness. Beyond John's face, I saw the deep eyes of my father and read there a kindness that answered my great need. Mary B., is it not well to test the divine? Must not that which is divine truly bear all the burdens of human flesh? And yet more? Mary B. thought it over for a while and tossed her cottony curls in the desert sun. Well, I do love him as a brother, even if he is the Messiah. With the directness of a child, she came into my arms and sat astride my neck, and we trudged on in the afternoon heat. My father never spoke but to guide or teach. His words had been a warning preparing me for the hard tests to come. My heart was torn by the questions that rode the shoulders of my mind, even as a cushion to the cross. Was I indeed divine? Was I, as mother thought, the Son of God, born of a virgin undefiled by man? Yet another wild question plagued my thoughts. What had father meant when he told mother that there were 3 ways of virgin birth? The more I pondered these things and wondered, the more I knew I had to talk with my father, but he always was with someone and we could not talk alone. Mother, apparently unaware of the burden she had dumped into my heart, seemed like a bird, gay and uncaged. She moved with a new energy, and she was more animated than I had ever known her to be. I could see that she had at last done that thing which she felt compelled to do, yet had put off, bearing the burden of postponement within her heart. One good thing had happened. Now when she and John looked upon me, I understood somewhat the strange adoration of their eyes. It was not love or lack of love for me. It was humble adoration for that God essence which I represented in her mind. I realized that as long as she thought of me as the Messiah, so long would her radiant adoration be turned upon me. But I asked myself, what would happen if she found that I was not divine but merely human? I knew how her life turned around the thought of her own careful preparation, her birth and training to serve as the handmaiden of God. Without this secret thought, this magnificent purpose in her life would indeed be worse than nothing. How clearly I saw that my own divinity, truly even my own verbal acceptance of divinity as the Son of God, was necessary to her continued faith in her own belief. The moment I denied that divinity by deed or word, the moment I evaded her idea of God in human form, or the moment I failed in the tests of divinity, at that moment her life would become a failure, her dreams purposeless, her life futile, her hopes denied. That moment my beautiful mother would be better off if she were dead. Because of the love I bore my mother, I knew I could never deny to her, or in public, that I was divine, born from God into human form, the Son of the Most High. To have done so would have been to destroy my mother utterly. It would have been kinder to drive a dagger into her heart, for now to deny my divinity would be to betray her to the fishwives and the tattle makers. And in our village her reputation would be torn to bits. She would be treated as a wounded fox in a wolf pack. All love and admiration would be withdrawn from her, and she would walk a lonely road. No, I could not deny the divinity without crushing my beloved mother into an early grave, or leaving her empty-hearted and better off dead. But could I claim divinity? If I accepted her claim for me, would I cut myself off from my own brothers, from my family, from my fellow men? Or worse, would I cut myself off from the initiate path which I longed to tread? Would I then be forever barred from learning more about the great white brotherhood and the order of Melchizedek? Only my father could answer. And he was deliberately avoiding me, near enough to fend for me if others were unkind, but far too far from me. The more I turned my thoughts inward, the more confused I became, and I began to ask myself questions that I could not answer. If I was divine, why had I not known it directly? Was not the divine all knowledge? If I was divine, why did I not have all skills and all abilities, including composition and ciphering? For was not the divine all learning? If I was divine, why was John and John more beloved than I, and why was I not? Beloved by all men, was not the divine all love? If I was divine, why was I not tall and handsome as my father, or broad and powerful as was John? Was not the divine all beauty? If I was divine, why did I not understand the meaning of the vision of the man of tin? Was not the divine all revelation? If I was divine, why did I not understand all of my own inner emotional conflicts and counter-loyalties? Was not the divine all truth? If I was divine, why could I not stay in the radiant condition of mind, such as was mine in deep meditation in the manger of the grotto during initiation? Was not the divine all glory? If I was divine, why had I lost self-control at the time John was in trouble? Was not the divine all courage? If I was divine, why had I not understood, or at least immediately mastered? The technique of how one could be in two places at one time was not the divine. All power? If I was divine, why could I not raise John from death? And why had I lacked the healing ability even after my father's long and careful training? Was not the divine all wisdom? If I was divine, why did I have so many human weaknesses and so many frailties, so many burdens? Was not the divine all divine? If I was divine, why did I not completely understand what my father meant when he told my mother that there were 3 modes of virgin birth, or what he meant when he told me that he would be able to help me more when I must master the things pertaining to heaven? Was not the divine all understanding? If I was divine, why was my father avoiding my questions? Was not the divine all commanding? Mary B. put her palms over my eyes so that I could not see the trail. When I came to a halt, she laughed and said, "You haven't heard a word I said, and I've been talking and talking. You've run away from everyone. Even John couldn't keep up. Do you think we should wait?" I took her from my shoulders, put her on the ground, and rumpled her cotton top. I kissed the peach-colored cheek. Hey, I'm proving that I'm divine. She did not laugh with me, but stood looking up at me in all seriousness. "But you don't have to prove it. I know, it shows." "How does it show, Mary B?" "Wherever you go, good things are there, and where you walk, beauty grows. When you speak, the whole world listens. Not just little girls like me, but important men. And not just men and women, for even the larks forget to sing, and little ground. Squirrels sit up to hear. When you smile, the whole world is happy, and when you frown, it wants to cry. If you say something is to be, it always happens. If you think hard upon any problem, it always solves itself. When you're near, everyone is filled with a strange peace and happiness. By such things we all knew you were divine before Mother spoiled our secret last night." I looked down into her eyes, so blue and deep, holding the wisdom of my father and the fire of my mother. No words would come, so I touched her gently with the tip of my finger on the nose, and at last she smiled. Maybe you are the one who is divine. Suppose." John caught up to us, his big body moving swiftly and his face covered with a broad smile and sweat. "Phew!" You darted away like a frightened dust whirl, and I don't blame you for outdistancing those chatterboxes. They're all over our family, asking everyone questions about last night, as if they couldn't see that you are divine. How could they see it, John? In what way do I show it? In every move and every word. Mother should know. She always notices. Indeed she does. Every word, every move. The first of the company was near us then, and the shouts and banter went up. For a while I walked with some of the Essene brothers who talked of trivial things or chanted the prayers and songs. But as soon as I could, I hurried ahead to try to untangle my twisted thoughts. Had my mother pointed out my traits to the others of my family, making her eyes see divinity in me for them? I had seen her by the force of her logic, her beauty, and her outflowing love, persuade learned men to her opinion. If she had used such tactics daily upon members of my family, they had small hope of not being convinced. Already I knew I could not turn to Rabbi Borenchen, for he was deeply under her spell and was one of the secret zealots who awaited the coming of the Messiah, hoping that he would lead Israel into throwing out the Roman conquerors. I could not turn to the priest for counsel. If my mother had implanted the idea of my divinity into the minds of my family and her friends, I could not hope to find truth reflected in their eyes unless my mother was completely right in what she said and what she thought. For verily, under her sway, they would all see me as divine and as the awaited Messiah. Then I wondered if I could turn to my brothers within the compound. I thought upon it and decided that I could not. They walked with me now, yet said nothing either of my success at the temple or lack of it, or of Mother's story of the Immaculate Conception. They were attentive to me and kind, but this was in our daily training. We talked only of trivial daily matters, or said our prayers, or recited en masse our psalms of thanksgiving. Truly, I could think of no way to turn but toward my Father, and he would not give me opportunity to talk with him not alone. Yet I knew he loved me well, and also that anything he finally said would be of great importance and of eternal truth. At the turn-off, we took leave of those pilgrims who were going on north toward Cana, Capernaum, or the other towns. It was only our own goodly company of about 400 who sang as they walked briskly into the winding streets of our village. We stopped at the top of the ridge and looked down. Our village was placed upon the smaller hills on the side of a mountain. It was a beautiful sight, with the houses resting like dream scenes upon the hills, and the river circling lazily in the wide valley, seeming to cozy the compound and the fields of the Brotherhood against the edge of the valley. With many goodbyes and much banter, individual families turned toward their homes. The Essenes and my family stayed together until we reached our yard. Then the brothers left us with a silent salute of love and blessing, but I could not arrange to be alone with my father. Jim and Jojo were with us in unharnessing and currying the animals. Then they went with Mother and Mary B down to the rocky basin in the river to wash our travel clothes. In the carpentry shop where Father went to work, he had John and a stream of visitors all afternoon. Thus the moments sped by until it was time for the evening meal. We were all together then until bedtime. It was a lovely evening. Mother was so sparkling, so radiant, so spontaneous, so free. Her wit was flashing and her energy soared. Her love poured out upon us all. She was unburdened and joyous. When we had gone to bed, I heard her happily whisper to my father, "Oh, Joseph, I am so glad that it is done at last. Hundreds from all over the nation now know the truth and already believe in his divinity. I feel so free. Beloved, you told a convincing story, and you were so beautiful that no man could doubt you for long. What about my husband? Who adores you more than he?" "He adores, but does he fully believe?" "More than fully. He truthfully believes." "Oh, Joseph, some day you will know how wrong you are. Meanwhile, pretty wife, do I not already know exactly how right you are? But you don't believe that he is the Son of God. God in human form? Is there any other God? Unless you know there is, would you agree if I told you?" "The initiate way, remember I went that way for 6 years. Could it be you stopped too soon?" "I stopped when the angel appeared." "You were never curious to know exactly how that came to be?" "How else but that he was sent from God? God in human form, beloved? Is there another way? To me, there is only one way. It had to be God in human form. In this your belief, would you have me concur if it ran against my own true knowledge?" "If you only believed." "Beloved, I know I adore you, woman. Is that not enough?" "What if he does not believe because you won't?" "How does he feel about it?" "Oh, he is unassuming and modest. The story was a shock. He cannot yet accept the true story, but in time he will." "Oh, he will. He must. Shall we say he must if God wills it?" "Oh, Joseph, I know you do not accept, but you will see, my darling, you will see.